Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Viewers, this is Vakar Corby, and today I'm going to discuss on two major conflicts and how they are shaping up the global environment, geostrategically and geopolitically. One is, of course, Gaza and Israel conflict, which started on 7th October. It was assumed by Israelis and Zionists that they are going to wrap it up within 10 to 15 days. That has not happened, and now we are almost witnessing the completion of the third month. On 7th January, it will be completing 3 months of war, and it has been a very long war, I would say, as far as Israel is concerned. The other is, of course, Russia-Ukraine war and how NATO is faring there. And is the West, led by the US, able to handle these two fronts and the possibility of a third front opening in the Indo-Pacific, especially in South China Sea? So these are, I think, important issues which are really impacting the global trade, energy, and especially the maritime shipping. Now, as far as Hamas is concerned, and if you combine the axis of resistance, which is Hezbollah in Iraq, in Lebanon, especially South Lebanon. Then you have Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. Then you have Houthis or Ansarullah in Yemen. And then, of course, Islamic Jihad, which is also helping Hamas. So this axis of resistance is actually now creating serious strategic problem for not only Israel, but also for the larger West. Now, we've also seen assassination of one of the key players or senior commander, Major General of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps in Syria, and most probably it was targeted by Iran, by Israel. So that's again, probably an effort to drag Iran into conflict, and looking at these two choke points, Strait of Hormuz and Bab al-Mandab, and adding Suez Canal, is becoming a very, very dangerous game. As we know, the Houthis started targeting the Israeli bound shipping or shipping which was originating from Israel, mainly commercial shipping. Initial denials that these didn't belong to Israeli businessmen were rebutted. Now we've seen it that almost half of the shipping which was supposed to pass through Bab al-Mandab, and mind you, it's almost every minute or every 30 seconds there is a super tanker carrying oil and gas or chemicals or car carriers or super carriers which pass through this important state. It's almost 30% of the global trade and 60% of global energy which passes through this choke point. So after, I think, attacking on these commercial shippings, the Houthis have effectively, I think, damaged the Israeli commercial interests, and now there are large companies, I think 20 of them, have decided not to pass through Bab al-Mandab, but rather go and skirt Cape of Good Hope. Now, other than choking the supplies around Bab al-Mandab, and of course, now we have seen escalation along the southern border of Lebanon, where Hezbollah is literally targeting Israeli northern settlements, even very close to port of Haifa, which is supposed to be the head of India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which is again now threatened very badly. And then you have Kataib Hezbollah, which is attacking American bases within Iraq, and I think there was a statement by the Iraqi Prime Minister probably asking the Americans to leave. So these are some of the developments which have taken place. But I think main effect has been the Western democracy itself and Western hegemonic, I would say, fear that existed around the globe. Initially, it was dented by the one freedom fighters of the Taliban, and now it has been proven that despite Israel getting full backup from the West, and we've seen a beeline of Western leaders from UK, from Germany, from European Union, Italy, everybody coming and sympathizing with Israel after 7th October. And the US has been, I think, backing them militarily. Delta Force is there, and then there are two aircraft carrier groups are already in the arena. Initially in Mediterranean, now one is I think entered across Strait of Hormuz, right in front of Iran, and the second one I think is in Red Sea or close to Bab el Mandab. Despite this backing, despite Israeli, shock and awe tactics and multi-billion-dollar weapon system and industry, and recently US has announced probably $14.5 billion pledge to support Israeli military effort. This, I think, aura and shock and awe doctrine has been dented very badly. The other is the human rights issue, the question of human rights. Uh, the West has been harping on human rights against even a lot of South Asian countries, including Pakistan, China, for even I would say frivolous internal, dissensions at times. There are certain crackdowns that make a lot of human cry, and then they have lists of countries violating human rights, and then you have Amnesty International coming up with their view, and there are a couple of NGOs, international NGOs, which who act as watchdogs. But on the question of Israeli atrocities, I think these organizations have also been, I think, exposed, and the larger West and the Western media, which was supposed to be a liberal media, which would be looking at, promoting democracy and human rights, that has been, I think, very badly damaged as far as their, I think, narrative and impression is concerned. I think that is more than what has happened militarily. Now, if you look at even military angle or strategic positioning, the way Houthis have, targeted even American military vessels and commercial shipping belonging to either Israel or, let's say, connected with Israel. And apparently, there is no action by the West. There is an effort to create a coalition for basically preservation of prosperity, whatever the name of the operation. But reluctantly, countries are not joining it. Even India was asked, I think, and even course to join, but they have sent a couple of ships to protect their maritime assets, because one of, I think, ship was targeted very close to Indian port of Gujarat also. So it means that even Indian maritime interests are threatened. So all told, this is an evolving situation. Still, we are not very clear that it's going to expand. My humble suggestion to especially the Western backed Israeli or Zionist forces, that they should stop here, because ultimately they are going to be the losers. Already, I think there are a lot of calls from within Israel, human rights groups, liberal Israelis. All Israelis are not Zionists, by the way. Even one of their ex-army chief has said that Israel is probably lost. So there's a lot of hiding of data on casualties, and basically it's arrogance, and they're trying to, I would say, search for a notion of victory for Israel, which it has been denied so far. If the war expands, let's say Iran is engaged, it means the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, Bab el Mandab gets closed, so it will be shutting off oil and gas supplies, global oil and gas supplies, almost 60% of that. Can the global community afford that? So I think that's a very big question. Now we come to Russia-Ukraine war, where NATO is pitched against Russia. They basically, as you know, it's almost now completing 2 years. They stepped on the toes of President Putin and thought he will keep smiling. But then he responded, because there were key interests that Ukraine should not be militarized or join NATO, and the war started. So far, Ukraine has lost 500,000 soldiers and officers. It has lost one-fifth of its real estate. It has lost almost more than 80% of its seaboard, which actually, if you calculate, it's very difficult to calculate the human cost. But in terms of real estate, industry, agricultural belt, ports, it's closer to more than $1 trillion. And that's a huge loss. And what they've received, I think, is a couple of weapon systems, some Leopard 2s, I don't know how they're going to use them. Today we had seen a ferocious attack by the Russians, missile attacks, not only targeting the frontline districts or states within Ukraine, like Zaporozhye, you have Kharkiv, the capital Kiev, but it also the targeting was also of the westernmost city like Lviv, which is supposed to house some of the advisors from NATO and the intelligence setup of the West, which is backing up the surveillance system. So that's, I think, been very, very critical strike. More than 150, I think, missiles were launched, and a lot of damage has taken place. Some people are saying this is the end of year call from President Putin because reportedly some of their ships were hit in the Black Sea in the ports of Crimea. And so it means that basically now there is also call for sending F-16s to Ukraine, and I think Russians have come up with a response. And in case they fly from European bases, then they are also legitimate targets. So on both fronts, the northern front, which is Eastern Europe, and the southern front, which is or southern flank, Middle East, the fire of war is burning, and incidentally, the rest of the world is just, I would say, helpless, watching that how things are escalating. I still feel that things could be settled on the table. For Russia-Ukraine war, I think there are serious efforts. There is a lot of division within Ukrainian military and political leadership that they should go for, they should sue for peace. And still, I think situation can be saved from Ukraine, provided it remains neutral between Russia and West and doesn't join NATO. So let's see how. And on the southern flank also, the onus is on Israel. Despite its atrocities, genocide, so far I think closer to 22,000 innocent Palestinians have been massacred, in which half are children or women. And we see daily, appalling videos, and now they're targeting the West Bank also. They have been dehumanizing very openly the Palestinians, and the war seems to be now dragging on into the third month. So again, it's a developing situation. What I think has also raised it raised a very big question regarding the international maritime trade, global connectivity, the corridors, and because if Belt and Road was threatened by luring in Ukraine for war with Russia along the northern route, I think the Israel-Palestine conflict has also threatened the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. So it means that there is something to be seen there also. So who's going to be winner or loser? I think 2023 been a very, very tough time for international system, and 2024 doesn't seem to be very promising till the time the peace makers come forward, and even United Nations has been, I think, denied any role in both the conflicts. So that's very, very unfortunate. So let's see how 2024 figures out for the international community, for the Palestinians who are, I think, fighting a historic battle against the Zionists, and how the Eastern European war shapes up in the near future. Thank you very much.